What is going on, fitness coaches? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives Make Money Online Trainer Podcast. So, guys, in today's episode, we are bringing back a special. This one is highly requested from our audience across the land, from all the people, because Kirsten and I, we are a power couple.
You're a power couple.
We are a power couple. And like my definition of a power couple is both of us are on our own personal missions and we both are building a beautiful life together. So Kirsten and I are going to start sharing some insights from our own personal relationship, as well as just some stuff that we see and, you know, our perspective on relationships, life, etc. So if you're excited, drop some fire in the comments. Let us know.
Let us know. Oh, I'm excited because I'm just going to throw Brian under the bus to start the podcast because this is just so I actually never wanted to stop Monday with the Marks. And when he told me, I was like low-key devastated. I was like, no, like, why do we have to cancel Monday with the Marks? I loved it. So when he said to me, and Utah, should we do it again? I was like, fucking sign me up. I never wanted to stop in the first place.
So the reason we stopped Monday with the Marks is because I was doing a fitness competition and she was mad. I bet she was Chantilly. When I was doing my fitness competition, guys, the only thing I care about is winning fitness competitions. So I told Kirsten, I was like, I love you so much, but I do not have the energy or space for Monday with the Marks anymore. And so I will be canceling effective immediately. And she was fucking, I support you, but I'm so upset.
Yeah, I was like, I support you. And then I went to my journal. I was like, this motherfucker basically just cancel our podcast.
Yeah, motherfucker. So, guys, in today's episode, we want to talk to you guys about when you should call it quits in your relationship.
Yeah.
And I think what made us think about this topic, what was it?
We did a rockstar relationship masterclass and we're hosting a relationship retreat, co-hosting a relationship retreat. And so we were kind of just discussing some podcast ideas. And I was like, a good one would be when to call it quits. Because I feel like in the rockstar relationship masterclass, we really talked about like working through adversity. But I think there also comes a time in a relationship where it's time to just like let it go. So
yeah. And so I like one of the things that I talked about on the relationship masterclass, which by the way, if you guys are interested in coming to the couples retreat that we are co-hosting with our boy Keaton in Salt Lake City, Utah, on November 15th, DM us Utah on Instagram and we'll give you some information.
good idea.
But one of the things that I talked about with Kirsten, I was like, I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not. Like, I'm a fucking business coach. I'm really good at business coaching, but I'm not a relationship expert. But what I can speak on is I can speak on mine and Kirsten's relationship because we have we got a pretty dope dynamic, even though you're a fart knocker. So in our relationship, we've definitely came to points where both of us considered calling it quits.
Yeah, many times. Many.
I thought there was only one.
Many, every day, up until yesterday.
Yeah,
a good day. No.
Many days.
Yeah, there was many times where we wanted to call it quits. And I think one of the biggest things that came to my mind, and you can kind of like give your perspective on this, I think when you can't see someone's potential or you can no longer see a future with that person that is happy, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So even on our like darkest of days and darkest moments where I truthfully was like, do I want to be in this relationship? There was a very large part of me that could still see all the potential that you had as a man. And I knew that even if I left, like you were going to become that person. And I wanted to be a part of that becoming. So I could always still see the potential. I could always still see a future. Whereas in relationships in my past, it got to a place where I was like, I literally don't see a happy future with this person. I see a future full of arguments. I see a future full of toxicity. I see it like I could no longer see it. And so for me, that's a really good sign that it's like, if you can't see that anymore, then it's probably a sign that the relationship might be on its motherfucking ends.
That's interesting. It's cool because we've got like the masculine feminine dynamic, and that actually makes a lot of sense. Like if you're thinking about your future and you're like, can I see a future with this person? Like, can I see a future, like a happy future with this person? And I think mine is a little bit different. So I totally appreciate that perspective. Mine's a little bit different. Mine's like, for me, this is my like opinion on relationships is like, I want to be fucking happy. And I want to feel like we're in love. And I want every day to like be enjoyable with my partner. And not every day is going to be enjoyable because sometimes you're fighting and whatever. But like overall, like if you look at like the span of time, like I would like the majority of our time to be in a good place. Like I want us to be laughing. I want us to be joking. I want us to be doing fun shit. I want us to be going on adventures. Like that is what I look for in a relationship, is like somebody that I can, like my adventure buddy, somebody that I can like spend my life with and have fun.
Yeah.
And so my determining factor on whether or not I want to stay with somebody or call it quits is like, if I think about how much time we spend together in the relationship, out of that time, is the majority of that time in a happy place or an unhappy place? So if like I spend 100% of my time with you, if we spend 70% of our time fucking arguing, which we've been in places like that in our relationship.
You've been in like 991.
Yeah. So like if like when we're at that point, like that's something that I don't want to fucking deal with. And so then I'm like, okay, so like if the goal is to be happy majority of the time rather than not happy, and like let's be honest, life happens. Like sometimes something happens with your partner, something happens in the relationship, unexpected financial stress happens, whatever. So in those times, like, yes, there's going to be a little bit more stress in the relationship, but overall, as an overall blanket statement, like, is the majority of your time with your partner happy or unhappy? And so for us, when we were at this place where we were like, the majority of our time was actually unhappy.
Yes.
And when we got to that place, it's like, okay, cool. Does that mean we call it quits? No. That means like we need to set the standard for what's acceptable in the relationship.
Yes.
And like, okay, like we're on, like, it's like, I'm not happy with this. And like both of us, we talked about this, like we both got to a place in the relationship where we're like yelling and screaming at each other. And we're like, this is not what we want.
You have to understand like what you'll tolerate, and you need to set boundaries that aren't bendable. Because I feel like what I see a lot of the time and what I've done in past
bendable boundaries. Interesting. It's a good fucking video.
Yeah, bendable, right? Like a lot of you guys have that. You have these boundaries and you're bending them because you're too afraid to leave this relationship. So it's like, if I tell Brian, like, this is a boundary, like, I can say this right now because this is a boundary. If you ever like slept with someone else, like, I would leave you so fast that you wouldn't even be able to like say goodbye because I would be gone, right? Or a boundary is like, if you went MIA again for 24 hours, like that's a huge boundary for me. And those aren't bendable boundaries. Those are like, if you do that, like that is something that I will not tolerate. And I will stand behind that no matter how much like my heart is like, no, stay, work on it. But so many people have these boundaries and they just allow them to be like manipulated. So then the boundary is so blurred, they don't even know what the fucking boundary is in the first place.
So I like that. So setting boundaries and not having bendable boundaries. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
And like thinking about the boundaries that you're setting, because again, like the reason you have bendable boundaries is maybe you're saying things out of anger versus saying things out of what you actually mean. So like me being like, if you ever do drugs again, I'll leave. That was a bendable boundary because I didn't like, you know what I mean? I didn't hold true to that. So it's like, where are you speaking from? Are you speaking from like, this is what like I legitimately will not tolerate? Or are you speaking from, I'm really mad right now, so I'm going to say things that are going to try and get under his skin versus I actually mean.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that boundaries is like that's like when I think about our relationship and like how that applies, like that's been a big part of our relationship on both ends. It's been a big part of our relationship on both ends. Like we've talked about like the mood swings and like you've gotten, like Kirsten used to be like swinging back and forth and like she's so good now. She's like, but it's like, you're so good now. It's like, you don't have mood swings at all. It like is non-existent.
Yeah.
And it's because I was like, yo, like, this is like, we can't have this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't deal with this. Like one day you're fucking super happy. And the next day you're like,
life is over.
Yeah. It's the ice queen. The ice queen is here, but she doesn't do that anymore.
No.
And it's the same thing. Like I don't go out, I don't do drugs. I don't get fucked up. I don't party because it's like, I'm respecting your boundaries and you're respecting my boundaries. And like, that's a big part of what makes us a power couple. But so like boundaries, I think is one thing. And I think that another thing, once you do call it quits in your relationship, I think that there's a lot of people that are listening to this right now, and including myself, I've done this a lot, where I will project that my partner needs to change instead of doing the internal work. So it's like, if we're unhappy, the first thing I do is I go to you and I'm like, we're unhappy. Fucking do this to fix me.
Yeah, make me a sandwich.
Yeah, do that, not that, but we're unhappy, and so you need to change. So in these like instances where we're like, okay, like we need to draw boundaries, right? Like let's just pretend we need to draw boundaries. In the same time of drawing boundaries, it's also looking at the other person and being like, I accept responsibility for the part that I played.
Yes.
Right. Like, and like so this is the boundary that we're going to set. And I accept responsibility for the part that I played. And I'm going to make a change because like, I'm obviously playing a part in this role that's causing this thing.
Dude. Yeah. And that's so funny because that was like almost like verbatim what I was going to say next. And like an actual specific scenario where we played this out is the boundary of like, there was a point where I was like, I didn't want you to leave at all and go on vacations at all. Right. Like that is a very unrealistic and very controlling boundary. You could never go anywhere without me.
And she would let me go, but then she would just
fucking
ignore me, not talk to me, just fucking ignore.
And like a lot of my anxiety, yes, stemmed from some of the things that Brian had done in the past, but a lot of it also stemmed from past relationships where I had been burned. And so, in order for me to set this boundary of like, okay, what's an actual boundary that's respectful to me and respectful to you? Not going out and getting absolutely fucked up is a respectable boundary. A boundary that is unrealistic when girls are like, my man cannot go anywhere and he's like attached by a fucking leash, that is a very big sign that I need to do the internal work, which I did. And I got to a place where not only am I like, you can go somewhere, sometimes I kind of like it. So I miss you and I can just binge watch my TV shows and I have no anxiety. And you're like, I miss you. And I'm like, yeah, I too.
Okay. Fucking relax. Fucking relax. Okay.
If I feel like if I go away, I miss you almost instantly. But when I'm at home, dude, I'm just like, binge watching my show. It's so good.
So I can think about the personal instance where that applies to me as well, because like we mentioned the mood swings thing.
Yeah.
And like how like came to a point in our relationship where it was like, I was like, I'm not willing to tolerate these fucking mood swings anymore. It's just like, I'm just not willing to do it.
Yeah.
And then part of the reason that Kirsten was having mood swings is because she said she felt like she couldn't communicate with me.
Yes.
Because sometimes like I'm fucking busy. Like I'm running my business, I'm running Aesthetic Nation, I'm running Pizza Domination, like I'm trying to grow my Instagram, I'm trying to do all these things. And so like I catch myself always busy. And because I catch myself always busy, Kirsten felt like she couldn't talk to me.
I felt like no time.
Yeah, she felt like she had no time. And so she would have something that was bothering her and she wouldn't be able to tell me because she felt like she had no time.
Yes.
So then I had to do the internal work and be like, I need to like shut the fuck up and just listen sometimes. And I just need to like give Kirsten this space to vent. And sometimes she just vents. She just talks and I'm just like.
But I love that you brought that up. So that's so important because at the same time too, like I had to be more aware of when I was bringing things to your attention. So it was almost like a boundary was set, but it was like during the workday, unless it's a fucking emergency, like don't come into my office and just wait before, because I did do that all the time. And he's like, he's like in the middle of a call, building a presentation. And so it's like, hold your shit in until 7 p.m. So that was a boundary where I did the internal work, you did the internal work, and we created a boundary that respected both partners.
So now let's get back to this conversation of when should we call it quits?
Yes.
Here's the thing, right? So we're setting boundaries, right? Yeah. Like we're setting boundaries, like I'm not willing to tolerate this anymore. This is the boundary. And I'm going to do the internal work on myself. And like, I want to fucking work on myself so that I can be better for you. Yeah. So like that is like that dynamic needs to happen. This is what I'm willing to tolerate and this is what I'm going to do. Once you do call it quits, like for me, like I'm a big believer that like the best apology is a change behavior. And so if I'm in a relationship with somebody and it doesn't matter, this is a relationship across the board. It doesn't matter if it's like a business relationship or, relationship with my partner or relationship with like a team member, whatever. It's like if somebody does something that, crosses a boundary with me and I let them know about it and I set the boundary and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to do that. I'm so sorry that I crossed your boundary. It's like the best apology for me is a change behavior. And so like I base whether or not I'm willing to stick around, like purely on the fact of like, is the behavior changing? Right? Because imagine if you were still with me, but I was going out every second weekend and getting absolutely fucking blitzed.
I just wouldn't be.
That's what I'm saying though, right? But the reason that we're together is because I modified my behavior.
Yeah.
I was like, you're like, I'm not willing to tolerate this. Like, this is unacceptable behavior. And I was like, okay, then like, I'm going to do the work that is required to, be a better person so that I can be better for you. And so I think that if you have a relationship with a partner and you're willing to do the internal work and you're willing to fucking set the boundaries and you're willing to work on yourself so that you can be better and your partner isn't meeting you at those places, like that's when it's time to call it quits, in my opinion.
And I think add on to that, absolutely. I think when one partner isn't willing to change, but what I will say is there's not a single scenario where only one person has to change. Like it always is a 2-person story. And so even if you feel like your partner is just shitting on you and shitting on you and shitting on you, he's disrespected you, you have allowed him to disrespect you. You have allowed boundaries to be crossed. So while, maybe he's being a total piece of fucking dinkhole, rightfully so, like feel the feels, but there's always a part you played. And I think one of the biggest things that I see is lack of responsibility in the part you played and just enjoying being in that victim mentality. Yeah.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think that people like feeling validated and people like and I've been here where people like they don't want, if you don't want to change, then you want sympathy for your story, right? Like if I'm in a relationship where I'm not being treated properly, but I'm not ready to leave, I'm either going to hide what's actually going on in that relationship, or I'm going to seek sympathy without actually changing. If I'm ready to change at that point, it doesn't really matter what anyone around me says. Like I've made the decision that I'm going to go and I'm not going to be persuaded otherwise. But a lot of people almost like enjoy playing the victim. I also think it's a comfort zone. Like I'm comfortable here. What's it like to actually become like the hero of my own life? What's it like to actually leave this relationship? What's it like to have people be proud of me instead of feel sorry for me because I'm stuck in this relationship?
I think that like that comes, it's so funny because I agree. And I think that if you're in a relationship that's not serving you and all you do is talk about it, but you never do anything about it, like you're choosing to stay there. Like you're choosing to stay there. And like, and I think that for me, it's like, this comes down to like how much, like I love my relationship with Kirsten. Like she's my partner, she's my soulmate. And I have a very high level of respect for myself. And so I know what I'm worth and I know what I bring to the table. And because I have a high self-worth and a high level of self-respect, it's like I'm willing to have hard conversations with my partner because like I know what I want in a relationship. And I think that you have to have that, like, if you're in a relationship right now and you're not getting what you need from your partner, like you need to be willing to have that fucking hard conversation, knowing that like on the other side of that hard conversation, there might be a change behavior, there might not be a change behavior.
And there might be a relationship where there might not be. And that's why people don't have the conversations, is because they're afraid of losing something that like needs to be left.
But it's like, it's so funny because they're afraid of losing something that needs to be left because maybe some past trauma or some past negative experiences or whatever. But like, dude, I would rather be alone than be unhappy.
And
you know what I mean? Like, I would rather be alone than be unhappy.
But I, for 10 years, stayed in a relationship where I felt intense loneliness, but I had a partner and I didn't leave because I was terrified. So we can say that now, but imagine someone who's absolutely terrified to leave and they think maybe, well, this is all like a lot of the time, I think it comes from, this is what I deserve. This is what I'm worth. If not him, then who's going to love me? Because they've been beaten down so much by their partner's manipulation or narcissistic tendencies that they quite literally are at a place where they can't see their worth, which is why I think like as like an online coach and personal trainer, this is where our work is so valuable, because what I do is I want to show you like how powerful you truly are so that you then can see that you do not deserve to be with someone who's calling you down on a daily basis. But I think a lot of females think like, this is what I'm worth, this is what I deserve, which is honestly really sad.
That's interesting. I never even thought about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like, again, it's like the self-love, the self-respect thing comes into play, but it also comes down to self-love. Like I love myself too much to allow myself to get treated like this. And like, and that's like, that's a hard place. Cause like that, when you actually say like, when you start loving yourself, and this to me, self-love means to like give myself love. Like I have a feeling of love and warmth and compassion towards myself. And when we love something, we treat it well. When we love something, we give it what it needs. Like I love Mr. Fluff. Like I treat him well. You know what I mean? Like I love Haley. I love you. And so like when I have love for something, I give it grace. I give it compassion. I give it good emotions. And so when you start giving yourself the love that you deserve, and you start saying to yourself, like, I am worth something. Like my life has value. Like I have purpose. Like I am like strong. Like when you start giving yourself that, like, I honestly think that's where it starts.
And I honestly think then you can go a layer deeper, and then you can then ask, does my partner help me cultivate a deeper sense of self-love, or does he take that away?
Oh, interesting.
Because you, Brian, like on a day where I feel down, Brian helps me like tap into my self-love. Like you'll tell me I'm pretty. You'll tell me I'm smart. But you won't just say those things, like you'll mean those things, right? So you're constantly helping me like tap into that self-love. Whereas a lot of partners are going through insecurities themselves, and they're almost like taking that away from us. Like they want us to feel low, because if we feel low, then we're at their level, right? Whereas we're always trying to, like, if you're having a hard day, I'm like, what can I do to make you feel better? I don't want to see you stuck. I don't want to see you insecure. I don't want to see you unhappy. Like I know that like we're a power couple when we're both tapped into our power. When one of us is not, we're just like that UFC. that night would not have been as epic as it was had we not both just been in these like disgustingly good energy, right? Like if I was like mood swing, pissed off, this and this and this.
Or I was drunk off my ass.
Exactly. We would have had a completely different night. So it's like asking yourself, is this person making me better or are they making me worse?
That's a really good perspective.
Yeah.
And that this actually comes back to that conversation that me and you had on the podcast in regards to like what I believe a power couple dynamic is really fucking simple. I think it's really simple. And again, this is just me speaking from my own experience with Kirsten, and I'm not a relationship expert. I'm just talking about what's worked for me and Kirsten. And so like what's worked for me and Kirsten is like theory is that like I'm working on myself and I'm going to commit to working on myself for the rest of my life. Like there's not going to be a day that I like let myself turn into a fat slob that doesn't fucking take care of myself. It won't happen. I'll be dead. Yeah. I'll be dead before then.
I wouldn't allow that either. Like we won't, like we have like the mark standard.
So it's like, but wait, it's like, I've got like, I'm going to work on myself and then Kirsten's going to commit to working on herself.
Yes.
And then together we're going to commit to working on the relationship. And also I think that part of like me working on myself and you working on yourself is the standard.
Yes.
Is the standard we have. Like if like when I put on a few pounds, which I did recently, and I asked Kirsten, I was like, I put on a few pounds. She's like, you got a fucking few pounds backed on. But she's
told them where I'm like, they're holding it right here.
But she's the same way. Like she's the same fucking way. Like she one time asked me if she's packed on a few pounds, and I was like, yes, you have.
Yeah.
Like I love you, but you have. But it's like it's really simple. I work on myself. You work on yourself. Yeah. We work on the relationship. And I feel like if you don't have that, then fight for it. And I think the first place you fight for it is you fight for it in your relationship. Like you fight for it with your partner. You fight for it with the person that you like love. And you like tell them like, I want a relationship where like I'm happy, you're happy, and we're building our happiness together.
It's possible. It's just so society is so full of relationships that are just like not meant to be. And people are like, marriage is so hard. And I know you guys, like Brian and I have only been married 3 years. Like I get that. We're not fucking 20 years down the road. But what I will say is like we are still in a place where we laugh, we're so touchy, we're so lovey, like we're like closer than we were when we first got together. So
she can't keep her hands off me.
I can't keep my hands off this fucking stud muffin. Like help me. I also think, babe, that like self-love, a lot of people are like, get your nails done, get massages. And while those are all acts of like, I love myself, so I'm going to do this, self-love is so much deeper than that. So when we talk about those conversations that we had together where I tell you that you packed on a few pounds, that's not me being an asshole. That's like my love for you is like, yeah, you have, and I'm going to be honest with you. So self-love is like hard conversations, and self-love is approaching those hard conversations from a place of love. I'm not going to look Brian in the eyes and say, no, babe, you're great. And then he puts on another 10 and I'm like, holy shit. And he's like, well, I asked you and you didn't tell me the truth. So I love my partner enough. I love myself enough to make sure that I'm always leading the conversation with authenticity and integrity to becoming like the best version of Kirsten, the best version of Brian. And if we're both doing that, it's inevitable that we're going to become the best version of the Marks together.
Boom. I love it. So if you're listening to this podcast, guys or girls, you're listening to this and you feel the strain in your relationship, you feel the tension in your relationship, you feel like you've been having more unhappy moments than you have happy. And there are certain days where you wonder whether or not you and your partner are going to make it. You wonder if you can see yourself happy in the future with your partner. I think step number one is like, have the conversation. Have the conversation. Be like, honestly, I haven't been happy. We've have had those conversations. Like, I honestly haven't been happy lately.
Yeah. And those conversations are gut-wrenching, dude. It makes me feel nauseous. Like, there's been times where Brian sat me down and I was like, holy fuck, like that hurts.
But then on the other side of that, on the other side of that is like
deeper connection.
Deeper connection. Yeah, deeper connection. Building, your life together, building your dream together. And that's what we're doing, you guys. Is like, I think that why it's so important that we talk about relationships is like, yes, we're building a business, but for what? We're building a business so we can build a life together.
Exactly.
We're not like building a business so that we just build a business so that the business makes money. For fucking what?
Exactly.
We're building a business so that we can build a life together. Yes. And like, I think that this is like a valuable part of your life is the relationship that you have with your significant other. And I agree. And if the relationship that you have with your significant other is not happy, if it's not fulfilling, if it's not rewarding, if it drains your energy, if they tell you that you should stop working, if they don't understand your vision, if you guys are on different pages, if they don't understand your fitness goals, like that will hold you back in your fitness goals, that will hold you back in your business, that will hold you back in your content, that will hold you back in your mindset and fucking everything.
Literally
everything. So you got to get on the same fucking page with your partner.
And you need to understand that if it's not this person, that there is someone else out there that's going to love you the way that you need to be loved. So you need to get the courage to let go of the things that no longer serve you. And that's like, I truly think that one of the biggest energy blocks that I've ever seen in people is when they're with the wrong person and they have all of this potential and that person is like almost just sucking that potential out of them until they become a shell of the human who doesn't feel confident to make those decisions, which is why I genuinely love what I do so much, because I feel like on a small scale, like I'm helping females like realize that like on your own 2 feet, like you are a powerful fucking human and the person that you're with like needs to support that and complement that, not take that away.
I love it.
When there's like constant conflict with no resolution, like, you know how we always have resolutions, we kind of talked about this, but then also like, you know, when you said change behavior, it's like change behavior, but then go back. Like if someone's changing their behavior and then going back, and it's just this constant like cycle back and forth, that's another sign that the relationship's not moving forward and there needs to be a hard conversation.
Well, yeah, I think that like a change behavior is a fucking change behavior.
But people will do that, change behaviors temporarily and then go back.
That's why I'm saying like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Exactly.
Like, and that's where it comes down to self-responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I respect myself too much to allow this behavior to continue.
Yeah.
And so like I understand like we already had this conversation, but this is me having this conversation again. Like I'm no longer willing to tolerate this.
A fucking men,
brother.
Fucking men. Okay, you guys can find me at The Real Kirsten Mark on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Dark hair, big boobs, tattoos, bad bee vibes. Hit me up.
Cool. And you guys can find me at The Real Bride Mark. And again, Kirsten and I are co-hosting a couples retreat in Salt Lake City, Utah with our boy Keaton at his house. There's going to be a VIP dinner and a full day of conversations about relationships. So if you guys want more information, you can DM us Utah on Instagram. We'll have a conversation. Have the best day of your entire life. We love y'all and we'll talk to you soon. Peace. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at TheRealBrianMark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.